No literary crime is ever normal, but this one is really different.
For literary agents, the clock starts ticking the moment they are called.
911, what's your emergency? Well, how do you know there's a manuscript there?
It's a serial writer. Another serial writer? Oh my God, I don't know how much more of this I can take.
This is unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Their chance of solving a literary crime is cut in half. If they don't get a lead
Wrote it with his bare hands.
within the first 48 hours.
I'm literary agent Robin Gower. I've been with the investigative writing unit for a while, and I think I've been trained by some of the best in my field. Yeah.
5:10 p.m. on Saturday, March 6th, the middle of an intense, homework-laden spring semester.
Agent Dickinson, Agent Gower, want to step aside? Pretty bad, you're going to want to watch your step when you first step in. Thank you. Pretty bad, you're going to want to watch your feet.
I'm Special Literary Agent Ariel Dickinson. I've been with the investigative writing unit for 5 years now, and this is by far the worst writing scene I have ever seen in my life.
You're going to watch the ceilings too, or stuff dripping down?
Oh, is that sick?
Watch it down.
This is one of the worst writings I've ever seen in my entire life.
Oh, it's everywhere.
You got the CCTV here, everyone's all checked out.
Might want to take a look at this.
Dickinson. Here, Murray, look at this. Look at. There's obviously some pretty clear-cut
You're
themes
right.
in this. Look. I know. This is 220 pages. Do you know what that is?
Classic Hines.
Yes, you got it. He always started out 220 pages when he started to write a manuscript.
He was going to write about us one by one.
Look, there, where's the cat? It's the most definite sign of a mystery writer. We got called to this address because the neighbors were outside doing some work in their yard, and they noticed that the door on this house was ajar. They came a little closer to check things out, and they said that they noticed a really bad smell, so they called us. Well, we went inside and we found out that the source of that smell was a decomposing manuscript. And who knows how long it's been there, maybe, I don't know. We're thinking 60 years? And as for the person who did it, who knows what his motive is? Until we get a chance to take our writing samples back to the lab and do some research and assess the evidence, it's a mystery.
Literary agents Gower and Dickinson send writing examples to the Investigative Writing Unit lab and enlist the help of specific material expert Amy Fritz to locate and investigate any files on Chester Himes. Meanwhile, Gower and Dickinson return to headquarters to assess their evidence.
We really need to find. All right, first and foremost, this author addresses racism.
When Chester Himes first put pen to paper, his intent was to write protest fiction. However, the seeds of his work, grounded in the social concerns of his era, readily yielded detective fiction. Via ethnic and sociological frameworks, Himes addresses moral issues of his time, including crime and violence, interracial relationships, and political depravity. In an era of controversy between capitalism and communism, Himes' work mirrors a society in which evil arises from the pursuit of money. He comments on gender roles by creating successful female characters who are resented by their male counterparts, despite being the beneficiaries of women's prosperity. Himes also satirizes religion, most notably born-again Christians, who are portrayed as hypocrites who use God's favor to justify bad behavior and ministers as mere con artists. Through his fiction, Himes introduces bizarre forms of violence and mayhem. His standard narrative technique tracks evidence through cities riddled with underground crime activity and filled with people attempting to maneuver through it. To survive and thrive within this culture, members are forced to participate in illegalities, yet, for the sake of self-preservation, must maintain appearances of mere onlookers. In this manner, Himes' characters become a metaphor for minorities who attempt to retain their own identity while being forced to blend into a different culture. Two of his reoccurring characters, African-American detectives Coffin Ed and Gravedigger Jones, are cops who use and abuse their authority for personal gain and recognition. The verbal abuse they inflict upon others, combined with their reckless gun wielding, causes them to appear loud and proud. Yet Gravedigger and Coffin Ed are sorely aware of their personal and professional ambiguity. Although their position as detective suggests prestige, they recognize that, within a white power structure, they have no real authority.
And look! Wait, look! This is dedicated to cat. It's sure a sign of a mystery writer.
That's it. Let's go see what Amy found.
All right.
Come in.
Amy Fritz, what do you have for us today?
Right, here's what I found. Chester Himes, born July 29th, 1909 in Jefferson City, Missouri. Yeah, he was the youngest of 3 boys, and his generation was actually 3 times removed from slavery. His father was Professor Sandy Himes, and he was the head of the mechanics department at the Lincoln Institute, where, interestingly enough, he taught blacksmithing and wheelwrighting. His mother, Estelle Beaumar, she was a fair-skinned woman who descended from a relationship between a slave owner and a slave. She claimed to be related to English nobility and encouraged her children to look to their heritage. Well, Himes first encountered racism around age 13. Fortunately, his brother was injured in a chemistry demonstration gone wrong. But the nearest hospital denied him treatment because, unfortunately, of his skin color. Later in his teen years, he encountered racism once more, unfortunately, while working at Wade Park Manor. Right. He sustained injuries from falling down an elevator shaft. He was denied treatment from the newest hospital, just as his brother had been. Well, soon after, Himes became troubled and eventually expelled from Ohio State University. He became involved in criminal activity and was sentenced to 25 years in prison. Well, while he was incarcerated, however, Himes realized human beings are capable of anything, and he began to write about crime, criminals, and life in prison. His work was published in African-American magazines and newspapers. Upon his release, Himes was temporarily employed as a writer for the Writers Project Association, but when it disbanded, Himes had a difficult time finding work because, of course, he was African American. Well, he was, of course, frustrated by racism, so Himes and his first wife, Jean, began to travel the country, searching for a place to be free from racism, but sadly they found that the land of the free offered no place to sit at a table and enjoy a meal. Yep, that's what I got.
Well, I can see we're dealing with no ordinary mystery writers, so I'm afraid if we're going to solve this case, we're going to have to go in much deeper.
You don't mean...
Yes, we must. In order to get the information we need, we'll have to submerge ourselves in the world of academia.
Jonathan Little, let's talk to him.
Excuse me, Mr. Little. We're literary agents and we just would like to ask you a few questions. Would you open the door, please?
Excuse me, Mr. Little. We're literary agents, Dickinson and Gower, and we're wondering if you could answer some questions about Chester Himes.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Chester Himes, I know him well. I've been told that in the beginning he didn't think of his work as detective fiction. He said he was simply writing about the lives of blacks in a white world. And his first novel, which is If He Hollers, Let Him Go, which was written in 1945, very much talks about his own experience in fiction form. So he was very much writing protest fiction against racism, against blacks, and he very much fits your model. It was in 1940 probably the most important, I would say, novel by an African American, to that point had been written by Richard Wright called Native Son. And it was about a black African American male who murders the daughter of the people he's working for as a chauffeur. This kind of sets the stage for black protest fiction for the rest of the century.